Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hume. I'm the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. So I'm excited about tonight. We have our great youth board and interns here with you, or for you, and our consultant, Jamie Washington, and another consultant, Yusuf Miller. So we're so excited to present this information to you. Feel free to add anything you'd like into the chat and stay on after and hop on for great discussion. Okay, thank you so much. So we'll start with Leanna.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion tonight. I'm Leanna, and I'm part of the youth board here at Clean for Kids. And at Clean for Kids, we have 6 teams. We have Team 1, which focuses on climate action, Team 2, which is about public lands and wildlife and trees, Team 3, which is clean air, Team 4 is about protecting water, and Team 5 is stopping toxic pesticides and chemicals, and Team 6 is zero waste and reducing plastics. We also have racial, social, and climate and environmental justice as a part of every team, and it's vital to everything that we do here at Clean for Kids. And tonight we are talking about actions to take to protect air, water, and just create a livable future. And you can hear from us, write your questions in the chat, and at the end of the panel, people who would like to stay on are welcome. So more information will be at the end of the panel in regards to that. So I am personally on Team 1, and we focus on climate action plans, renewable energy, and sustainability. And so at Clean for Kids, we have an action plan on our website. I will put the link in the chat for that. So please let us know what you think we should add or change. For our action plan, we are always open to adding things and changing things and so forth with that. So you can send us an email that I will also put in the chat for everyone if you'd like to discuss more about that. But an action plan kind of sets goals to protect our communities and ultimately our future. So this could help cities set things like 100% renewable energy goals, which is important because we want to stop burning fossil fuels that pollute our air, our water, and ultimately create greenhouse gases. And by stopping fossil fuels, we can meet our climate and environmental goals. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a letter that we wrote to the San Diego Board of Supervisors yesterday. It was for a meeting on their climate action plan updates, which I attended and a few others were able to attend as well. And this included the email we sent included things like talking about healthy soils and why that's really important for a climate action plan. Healthy soils help sequester carbon, so they help like get carbon out and like carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. And healthy soils are not possible with things like pesticides. And so a lot of these things in regards to pesticides and climate action and healthy soil are all very connected. So that's something that we try to push in this email, as well as talking about buyback programs for farm equipment, since farm equipment does account for 52% of greenhouse gases here in San Diego County from the agricultural sector. So we support incentives for replacing or converting a lot of these equipment and irrigation pumps to electric. And adding this buyback program would also help provide incentives for people of low income and small businesses. And another thing that we did touch upon was passing electrification ordinances, for new construction units and businesses, since things like gas stoves in our homes actually increase air pollution and emit methane, which contributes to climate change as well. So these were just a few things that we were pushing for out of the many that we would like to include on a climate action plan. But all of these collectively are towards the goal of going towards 100% renewable energy and trying to decrease our footprint on this earth as much as possible. So if you have any ideas, our email is in the chat, and so is our website. And we're looking forward to working with everyone on this. We want to work together for change and support. And we want to support school districts, cities, and others with more ideas, solutions, and strategies for our better futures. And we, of course, always have free resources on our websites and are connected to lots of experts. because we have to protect not only public health, but the environment as well. And now here's Judith.
Thank you, Leanna. Hello, I'm Judith. I'm an artist with cleanearthforkids.org. And these are some of the goals I'm currently working on. Setting these goals for myself is important because I'm making a difference in a way through my art. And I'll probably even change lives. I don't know. And yeah, for example, through my no idling signs that I drew, which will be soon placed outside of schools, parks, and many more places. Next, I'll talk about community service. At cleanearthforkids.org, we welcome students to earn community service or service learning by taking notes. For example, if students attend meetings like what Leanna shared, they send the notes to us. You can take notes on our YouTube channel where we have over 50 panel discussions. More information is on cleanearthforkids.org. People can also create infographics, art, music, video clips, poetry about what you've learned. We welcome students or adults to fill out an application to intern or volunteer with us. Anna, can you please share a link to our website about internships, volunteering, and community service opportunities? Okay, so next I'll talk about, I'll share about my letter that I sent last night to San Diego County and the reasons that it is important to me that we sent this letter. And you will also hear later from Lizbeth, Darren M, and Anna M. So yeah, yesterday I sent a letter to the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. And in this letter, I asked them individually to implement an IPM. And it is important because it will eliminate toxic synthetic pesticides and synthetic fertilizers used in San Diego County public lands leased and managed. San Diego County is using thousands of pounds of pesticides per square mile, which we saw by using trackingcalifornia.org and EnviroScreen 4.0 by OEHA. We've asked the County of San Diego to take action now as owners of the land to make certain that those leasing the land are not harming the community, the kids, the people living in the neighborhoods, and the students attending Mission Vista High School at VUSD. Thousands of pounds of very toxic pesticides banned in other countries like China, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, the European Union, and others are being used on San Diego County land by West Coast tomato growers. We're also asking them to stop leasing land to West Coast tomato growers because of the pesticides they use and the worker violations that occurred in 2019. West Coast tomato growers has not been a good neighbor, hence the story that you might have heard from Suzanne that she was poisoned due to the pesticides they sprayed near where she lived or used to live. So yeah, overall, implementing an IPM in San Diego County will tremendously improve the environment and the health of millions of people. Okay, so next I will talk about our contests. So also, we have many contests and challenges. If you go to our contest page at cleanearthforkids.org, you'll see a variety of contests like art, music, writing, poetry, dance, STEM projects, infographics, presentations, and more. Anna, can you please share the link to our contest page on cleanearthforkids.org? Here is a link to the Google form for the permission slip/waiver to participate in our activities and our events. So next, I will talk about car exhaust. Car exhaust is toxic. Air pollution and car exhaust from idling is hazardous. Air pollution is very harmful to people. In fact, asthma is the #1 reason kids miss school and the third leading reason kids under 15 are hospitalized. Worldwide, air pollution is one of the leading causes of death and should be taken seriously, very seriously. Here we have an action to help combat it. We have a no idling contest for K-12 students. You can have a legacy. You can help us let K-12 students know they are welcome to enter our no idling sign contest and draw or use the computer to make no idling signs to remind people to turn off their engines when they are parked. It is the job of the school districts to create and pass policies that protect children's health. Schools should have no idling signs posted. Also, no idling signs should be in parks and near city buildings as a reminder. No idling signs help us reduce pollution and greenhouse gases, which cause climate change. If you would like to work with us to get no idling signs and no idling policy in the climate action plans, cities, please let us know. For no idling signs, contests, and educational campaigns, we're excited to work with Vista Unified, Oceanside Unified, and La Mesa, Spring Valley, and other districts in the cities of Oceanside, La Mesa, and others. Please go to our cleanearthforkids.org website to see Team 3 No Idling page for ideas and a resource packet for schools and businesses. Anna, can you please put this link in the chat? Okay, also, we wanted to let you know that besides working on passing/getting no idling signs at schools, university parks, and in front of city buildings, we are adding the no idling policy to CAP, which stands for Climate Action Plan. Team 3 also supports clean air initiatives, including zero emission vehicles for cars, trucks, and fleets, safe routes to school to allow students to safely walk or bike to school, and also school districts establish drop-off points where students are escorted to school. Air pollution educational campaigns, don't forget indoor air pollution. Support legislation to create buffer zones for oil and gas drilling and for pesticide drift. Next, we have Anna M. to talk about These Are the Hands contest.
Hi, good evening. I'm Anna. I work on project management and pesticides. So here are my 2021 goals, which focus on research and project management skills. Doing this work is really important, especially since there are some pesticides that are still being reviewed, and part of the projects you work on at Cleaners for Kids are reviewing those that are still waiting on getting approved. So that's why this work is so important. So next, I'm going to be sharing a few contests and activities. So the These Are the Hands contest is open to everyone of all ages. We hope you will join us in making a drawing and decorating a hand to recognize, honor, and lift up people working for change and to make life better for others. Everyone is encouraged to participate and honor someone making a positive difference in your school, community, city, state, or in our world. You can draw and decorate a picture of a hand and add symbols, words, and pictures to honor their work. This contest is important to celebrate those working hard for change. So next, I'm going to be talking about the Protect What You Love contest, which you can participate in by sending us your picture or drawing of what you love and why we should protect it. We can work together to protect our forests, national parks, and wildlife, clean water, clean air, oceans, rivers, streams, and our health. We can work together to stop toxic pesticides, pollution, plastics, and the destruction of our public lands. So pesticides are a public health, racial, social, climate, and environmental issue. Leanna, stopping toxic pesticides and racial, social, and environmental justice are all important to you. Can you please share what our intern Ashley is doing or working on?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Anna. So yes, we have a wonderful intern, Ashley. I believe she's in the audience tonight. She's an organic gardener and protector of nature who's working on a series of books with us, actually called Ashley's Garden. And she's also working to preserve wetlands and ecosystems and is very active in her community science and wildlife monitoring. And on her Instagram, she posts a lot about her own organic garden and beneficial insects and so much more. And it's beautiful content. And she makes very insightful and important comments about racial, social, and environmental justice. So we're really glad to have her with us and doing all the amazing work she's doing. She's doing a great job. And she's also working to uncover a lot of these injustices in Africa Town. And so we will share more about this in the future, but the bottom line is that it is not okay for anyone, especially these billion-dollar companies, to pollute our water, our air, soil, and or neighborhoods or in communities, because it's not only an environmental issue, it becomes a public health issue, a racial issue, a social injustice, and so many more. And so we are standing with Indigenous people and everyone working to protect water and fight these environmental and racial and social injustices. Specifically, we're really concerned that people are losing access to clean water, and that our streams, rivers, oceans are being polluted. We're also really concerned about what is happening with bills regarding water protectors. I mean, people who are working to protect our clean water are going to jail. And so we must stop this, and we cannot protect these corporations dumping toxic chemicals over our right to clean drinking water and a livable future. And so I'm going to drop a link in the chat to a great article about everything that we're kind of discussing, so that many of you guys in the audience can read more about it. Um, and with that, I'm going to pass it back off to Anna.
Thank you, Leanna. Water is super important. Um, we need water for our livelihood, and we also need to protect our water, our people, fish, and marine mammals with regulations like the Clean Water Act. Please join us to have the opportunity to protect what you love, and also thank you to our intern Ashley for sharing her important work. So next, I'll be talking about some petitions that everyone this evening can participate in. So the first one is going to be to please ask the EPA to follow the law and stop unnecessary pesticide risks. So the EPA allows pesticides known to cause many adverse effects on humans and the environment, like asthma, autism, birth defects, Parkinson's, and several types of cancer. By law, the EPA can only allow pesticides that show reasonable certainty of no harm. In 2016, the US used 322 million pounds of pesticides that were banned in the EU and 40 million pounds of pesticides that were banned or being phased out in China. So for more information, Leanna has put the link in the chat as well as the petition to sign off on. So the next action and petition you can participate in is to please ask your senator to support the PFAS Action Act. It was passed last week by the House. PFAS are over 4,000 toxic chemicals found in makeup, waterproofing, clothing, packaging, synthetic turf, and are linked to cancer, thyroid disease, liver damage, decreased fertility, and hormone disruption. This act will mandate for the EPA to establish a national drinking water standard for PFOA and PFOs, the EPA to set discharge limits on industrial releases of all PFAS, stop the introduction of new PFAs and do comprehensive PFAS health testing, create voluntary label for PFAs in many products, which should be mandatory, and list PFOA and PFOs chemicals as hazardous substances and air pollutants. So thank you, Leanna, for adding that to the chat for everyone to see. So the third action you can participate in is to please ask your members of Congress to support the Ascension Valdivia Heat Illness and Fatality Prevention Act. So this would require the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, to create standards to protect workers in high heat environments. So this would require employers to provide training for their employees on heat risks and treatment. From 1992 and 2017, heat took the life of 815 US workers and seriously injured more than 70,000. Climate change is also making the problem worse. So the act is named in honor of Ascension Valdivia, who died in 2004 after picking groups for 10 hours straight in 105-degree temperatures. So for more information, I believe Leanna has added that to the chat as well as the petition to sign on.
The last action I'll be talking about tonight is to please ask the California Natural Resources Agency to protect Tesla Park. So Alameda County's Tesla Park is home to many threatened, endangered, and species status or special status species and is part of a critical wildlife corridor. The area is important to California Native American tribes for sacred ceremonial and burial sites. It was threatened by off-road vehicles for more than 20 years. So to participate, please proceed in clicking on the chat or the link in the chat, and for more information, Leanna has provided that as well. So thank you, everyone. Those are the 4 actions you can take, and here is Film Darren.
All right, hi everybody, I'm Film Darren, and I have made a couple videos with Cleaner for Kids. As you can see on the screen, I did a few for healthy soils, just talking about how pesticides are a threat to healthy soils, and I've also made some videos on why synthetic turf is dangerous for human health, as well as the health of the environment. And I make these videos because I'm passionate about the environment, like everybody here, and I think that I'm not great at editing, but I like it. And so being able to share like both of my passions is great. And also these videos are on topics that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. So I think spreading awareness is important, and this is one way I can do that. I hope that with my videos, I'm able to educate and reach people far beyond my circle and inspire change and maybe like spark conversations as well. And in the future, hopefully the next video I make will be addressing UNC, where one of our volunteers, Jillian, attends. And, she's amazing working on this as well. And we are going to urge them to get rid of coal plants on campus because they keep doing that, which is horrible for the students on campus, as well as like every human on Earth because of the effects it has on our atmosphere.
Alrighty, thank you, Darren, for sharing that. So next, we'll be talking about the Picture It challenge. So to bring awareness and stewardship of our earth, water, and animals, you can take a picture or draw or write about your favorite animal or place and why we should protect it. We can post it on our website and social media to bring awareness and work to protect nature and our environment. You can also post the pictures that you see in nature. We call this contest and activity the Picture It one. So many of our interns have gone to take pictures and observe nature. This is an important part of community science or citizen science. And you can see board member Jay's video on monarchs on our cleanearthforkids.org YouTube channel. So in addition to the Picture It contest, you can also do a nature journal and sketch, identify, and record what you see in nature. Nature journals are lots of fun, especially for those who like to draw or research. Our board member, Jay, still has the nature journal he made years ago when he went on a trip to Australia. People can also make their own planners and add special days from the calendar. And here is Film Darren. Can you please share what you are working on with pesticides?
Yes, thank you, Anna. As you just said, I'm working on stopping toxic pesticides from being used everywhere. So one way I've been working on this is through filling in our spreadsheets, which detail the types of pesticides that are used in local cities and school districts. And this is important to me because I believe that everyone should have the right to know what types of harmful pesticides they're being exposed to, and that this information should be easily accessible. So it is accessible, but hopefully by compiling these into spreadsheets, we can get this information out more easily. And so for those of you in the audience, here's a quick list of how you can find out what is being used by your city and school district. So to get that list of what, where, and when pesticides are being used in your school or city, for a city, you can fill out a free public records request form on their website. And then from there, you can compare your list to the Pesticide Action Network spreadsheet to see which pesticides that are being used in your city or school are banned in China, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, the European Union, and other countries, but they're allowed here. You can also, from there, look up the active ingredient of the pesticides being used. on the Beyond Pesticides website. And through all of this research, you'll find that the list is startling. We can help find alternatives to offer to your city or school and offer resources to stop these pesticides from being used. A term you'll hear often in the pesticide toxic chemical conversation is burden of proof. So in the US, chemical companies don't have to prove their products are safe. It's up to the regulators to prove that they're dangerous, which meant that it took over 50 years to ban lead in paint, and asbestos is still allowed in certain products. The burden of proof needs to be on the manufacturers to prove it's safe. Additionally, the EPA has to use good science. Right now, they use industry-funded studies and only look at the active ingredients. So that means they don't actually test the products that people are using, just the ingredients. So these products are not tested for safety, and legal doesn't mean safe, especially in our country. In the United States, we are not using the precautionary principle that is used in Europe. And the precautionary principle essentially means that if something has the potential for harm and it does not have sufficient research or testing, it should not be introduced into the market. In the United States, we do the opposite. We introduce things into the market, and then if people start getting cancer or other serious diseases, then we withdraw it from the market. The companies making pesticides fund their own studies, which are allowed to be used in determining the safety of the product. And this is very unfortunate. So if you want to help us make a change, please let us know. We can share the pesticides being used in different cities, counties, and schools here in the US. We get this information by requesting public records, and we research pesticides. Then we look at the list of pesticides that are being banned in other countries, similar to what you can do on your own as well. The health and safety of the children, expectant mothers, and other people who are at higher risk, students, and along with everybody else in the community, should be the #1 priority. Please help us do everything we can to protect the health and safety of these people, the animals, and the environment. If you're interested in getting involved further or have any ideas, you can write them in the chat, or contact us at cleanerforkids.org. So speaking of countries banning pesticides, did you know that the United States only bans 15 pesticides total? For comparison, China has banned 51 and the United Kingdom 175. The US uses over 1 billion pounds of pesticides every year. We have to stop using them because they have negative impacts on our health, especially when used in schools, fields, and other areas where people are nearby. Due to the health impacts and risk of pesticides from pesticide drift, we advocate for no pesticide use, especially in areas where people live. Cleaner for Kids has resources to track what chemicals are banned in specific countries on our Team 5 Stop Toxic Chemicals and Pesticides page. And now to Lisbeth.
So because I come from the Coachella Valley, and my parents' career was a lot to deal with farm work, I kind of joined Cleaner for Kids to try to spread awareness about pesticides and trying to eliminate them, especially for groups like farm workers that are exposed to those 24/7. So my kind of goal is to advocate for the health and well-being of farm workers and just contribute to the environmental aspect of it. I find that kind of speaking to local councils and on board meetings kind of is very helpful. Pesticides are a vast list of them. Single-handedly, I think my mom has kind of developed like respiratory issues because of all the spraying of pesticides. So it's definitely, it hits home personally to me. It's actually a very personal situation that I have to deal with. But yeah, if we can just speak more on the health risk on this and trying to eliminate them as a whole would be great. Another small point that I wanted to point out is that kind of a lot of the communities that are exposed as well with pesticides tend to be in like low socioeconomic status. So that's like another thing that it's worth kind of addressing, that not only are the farm workers being exposed, but the location of like the Coachella Valley has a lot of land to be able to grow field of just so many different companies grow a lot of their produce there. And it just kind of, like a lot of the people that live there tend to be Hispanic too. So I feel like that's just a huge issue when it comes to like the environmental and government aspect that a lot of the communities have to suffer, and the kind of like these local governments aren't doing much to kind of address the people that are living there, and all like the kids, you know, they're kind of probably developing a lot of more respiratory diseases. But yeah, just kind of that's all I wanted to say about that.
Pesticide drift, it goes along with what we've been talking about with clean air initiatives. It describes the phenomenon of airborne particles of a pesticide moving and landing in residential areas, wildlife habitats, etc., where it was not intended to go. The EPA estimates that up to 70 million pounds of pesticides are lost to drift each year. An example of this is dicamba, which is an organophosphorus pesticide, which has damaged or destroyed millions of acres of crops in at least 25 states, which causes huge financial losses for thousands of farmers across the country. And for this reason, those farmers ended up suing. On June 3rd of 2020, a federal court overturned the EPA's approval of dicamba. The ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit found that the EPA, quote unquote, substantially understated the risks of the dicamba herbicides and failed entirely to acknowledge other risks. Farmers have continued to use it, so that shows that there's a lack of sufficient regulation, but it's a good step forward. Also, like Elizabeth mentioned, a majority of field workers growing our food are Hispanic, which creates more racial inequality. For example, Latino children are 91% more likely than white children to be exposed to the highest levels of pesticides. And also, people of a lower socioeconomic status, which has also been mentioned, have less access to organic food. And organic food does not use synthetic or highly toxic pesticides. I think it's something like 50% more expensive than other food. So being able to make organic food more affordable is definitely one of our priorities. To protect our farm workers, our neighbors, and ourselves, we need to have the facts and tools. We can work together and make changes so that school districts, college campuses, daycare centers, businesses, and cities stop the use of toxic pesticides to protect air and water and healthy soil. And I'm going to pass it off to Judith now.
Thank you, Darren. Organophosphate pesticide is a neurotoxin patented by Dow in 1996. As written by Earth Justice, chlorpyrifos is acutely toxic and associated with neurodevelopmental harm in children. People are exposed to residues on food and in drinking water and by toxic spray drift from pesticide applications. Prenatal exposures to chlorpyrifos are associated with lower birth weight, reduced IQ, loss of working memory, attention disorders, and delayed motor development. Trump brought back chlorpyrifos after a $1 million donation from Dow Chemical. The court ordered a ban on all food uses. Please ask the EPA to ban all uses. Here is a petition you can sign to tell decision makers to keep this toxic pesticide out of our food, our water, our schools, and yards, and our bodies. Can you please put it in the chat? So next, I will talk about a hormone disruptor, atrazine. Atrazine is a herbicide, which are chemicals that are toxic to plants. It is used to prevent weeds with broad leaves from popping up on crops like sugarcane and corn. It is also a hormone disruptor that has been shown to change male frogs to female frogs. Currently, the EPA is evaluating atrazine. By their own assessment, they have found it likely to cause harm to 976 threatened species or endangered species and 314 critical habitats. Atrazine is also linked to serious health effects like hormone disruption, shorter pregnancy, and even cancer. U.S. farms use over 70 million pounds of atrazine every year, and thanks to runoff waste from agricultural centers, it ends up in the water supply. Here's Darren.
So according to the EPA, acephate is an organophosphate insecticide currently registered for use on a variety of field, fruit, and vegetable crops. Acephate can cause cholinesterase inhibition in humans, which is a mouthful, but what that means is that it can overstimulate the nervous system, which causes nausea, dizziness, and confusion at very high exposures. At lower levels, they are not shown to be too harmful towards infants, children, and people who get exposed to it through their drinking water and food, but the EPA has found risks are of concern for homeowners and children entering homes and lawn areas treated with acephate. It also has impacts on the environment. Acephate is highly toxic to honeybees and beneficial predatory insects on an acute contact basis. Acute and chronic risks to birds and chronic risks to mammals are also high. And then here's Vanna.
Thank you, Darren. And now we're going to talk a little bit about a chemical, or it's called, like, they're under phthalates. So these are not only found in pesticides, but also in plastics, and it's specifically added to plastics to make them more durable and flexible. So think perhaps like maybe a plastic water bottle. However, they're also found in many products like pesticides, and they are known as endocrine disrupting chemical or endocrine disruptors. And these chemicals impact the hormonal systems of the body in which they go into. And these systems are really, really important. And when they end up in our bodies, they can end up in our bodies through a few different ways. So a really common exposure happens from eating or drinking food and drinks that are contaminated with phthalates. So this can come in the form of leaching, which is where chemicals and plastics leach out into whatever is contained in them when heat is added. So think of if you have a plastic water bottle in a really, really hot car for a while, those phthalates from a plastic water bottle might like contaminate the water, and then we're consuming that, and then that's not good because phthalates are endocrine disruptor. That's one way. And others through contamination at the source. So like how plants are exposed to pesticides, and those pesticides make it to our dinner tables. And that's another pretty common way. And another way is breathing in the chemicals. So either way, regardless of how it gets into our body, they're toxic, and they're linked to so many harmful health impacts, as well as impacts on our environment and impacts on our ecosystems. So it's really something that we are trying to work on and getting rid of. Another thing is glyphosate. So glyphosate is a synthetic herbicide that has been associated with cancer and other health concerns. It's really, really commonly used, and you might know it as an active ingredient Roundup, which Roundup kills a lot of weeds and grass. And since its patent in 1974, Americans have used about 1.8 million tons of glyphosate. That's a lot of pesticides. And so in 2015, the World Health Organization classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans, meaning that it's most likely cancer causing, and has found an association between glyphosate and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And as we mentioned earlier, we are trying to stop glyphosate along with speedzone and other toxic pesticides as well. One thing that I specifically worked on with a collective group of people was tarping. So specifically, we used it for an invasive species called Algerian sea lavender. And instead of using herbicides like glyphosate, what we did is we took a plastic tarp that was reused, that you can reuse multiple times, that's black, and then you pull it over what you're trying to get rid of. In our case, it was the Algerian sea lavender, and you allow it to the heat to build up through a process called solarization. The sun brings in heat, it gets trapped underneath, and it kind of like melts the invasive species at a high temperature over the course of maybe 4 months. And then once you take it off, it's completely gone, and the native species can thrive. And we were able to do this completely without any type of herbicides or pesticides whatsoever. And we were able to protect the native species that we love and get rid of the invasive species. So if you would like to help eliminate or reduce pesticides from your city, like we did in the city of Oceanside, Maui, and the best example, the city of Malibu, please let us know. For example, the state of New York does not allow pesticides on playgrounds, and no herbicides are allowed in the entire school system in Hawaii. So we have resources on our website, Clean for Kids, underneath Team 5, which is Stop Toxic Pesticides and Chemicals. And still on topic of chemicals, did you know that according to the Center for Effective Government, which is a nonprofit based in DC, less than 1% of 84,000 chemicals that were used in the United States are actually tested for safety. That's less than 1% of almost 84,000 chemicals used that we don't know if they're safe at all. So many pesticides that are used in the United States are banned in many other countries, as Darren and others have mentioned. Specifically, PAN, which stands for Pesticide Action Network, along with other organizations like Beyond Pesticides, are doing very important work to make sure that we get more chemical testing, that we're seeing the health results and when we are using these type of chemicals. One example is clopyralid or clopyralid. I probably am pronouncing that wrong, but we use 1.6 million pounds of it each year, and it endangers the health of people, like irritation to the eyes, mouth, and skin, and as well as animals. It disrupts their developmental stages, reproductive health, and things like liver and kidney damage, weight loss, and a lot of abnormalities in like their skeletal composition. So it also causes damage to sensitive plants at levels that are way beyond normal and safe, and it's very considered volatile. So something like this used so heavily it's not considered safe at all by any health standard, but in the United States, it is not tested for safety and it's used heavily. So we need to stop things like this from happening, and we need to protect our health, our children, our future, and our environment ultimately as well. So with that being said, a lot of this is scary, but there are things you can do to combat it while we are in the situation. And so Judith is going to talk to you a little bit about washing produce.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, so remember that pesticides are on the foods we eat. It is very important that we soak our vegetables and fruit before we eat them. So here is how to do that. You can soak veggies and fruit in baking soda and water for 15 minutes. Add 2 teaspoons of baking soda per 1 quart of water, and that's it. That is very important. This is very important to protect our health. Pesticides get into our air, water, and food. For more ideas, you can visit our website, Team 5, on cleanearthforkids.org. We're excited to work for change. Next, I'll talk about IPMs, an IPM. We need to protect our food, water, air, public lands, and where kids go to play, learn, and live. We all need to be free from pesticides and toxic chemicals. An integrated pest management, IPM, is important because it requires pesticides being used to be documented. That means we know where the pesticide is being used, how much is being used, and when it's being used. However, as we have discovered by accessing public records, too many times cities, school districts, are just writing down and documenting what they use, but not making the changes needed. They are still using toxic pesticides. This is because the chemical companies that make the pesticides often give the training for using these pesticides, and they tell workers that they are safe. The people doing the training probably believe what they have been told and have not had the opportunity to look at the number of countries that are banning these pesticides that they claim are safe. An IPM can only be an effective and environmentally sensitive approach to pest management that relies on a combination of common sense practices. In an IPM, there are alternative and safer ways that a company could eliminate pests that do not harm the living beings in the environment. We will be talking more about cities and school districts that do not use chemical pesticides. We have examples and ideas for you. First, let's talk about what is an IPM, and then we will be talking and how you can help get one in your city and school district. Please check out our panel discussions on our YouTube or contact us to learn more about how to pass an IPM to protect people, workers, pollinators, and ecosystems. Our future depends on it. Here's Anna.
Yes, thank you, Judith. So next, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the government agencies. So first is CDPR, which is also the California Department of Pesticides. Agricultural pesticides in California are regulated by CDPR, but this does not mean that the pesticides being used are safe, especially since over 80% of CDPR's budget comes from pesticide licensing fees paid by chemical companies. So they do have a conflict of interest. Next, I'll be talking about the Department of Toxic Substances Control, which is to protect California's people and environment from harmful effects of toxic substances by restoring contaminated resources, enforcing hazardous waste laws, reducing hazardous waste generation, and encouraging the manufacture of chemically safer products. The Cal EPA, which is the California Environmental Protection Agency, their mission is to restore, protect, and enhance the environment to ensure public health, environmental quality, and economic vitality. The Cal EPA develops, implements, and enforces environmental laws for air, water, and soil quality, along with pesticide use and recycling and reduction. It is really important that we use our voices to make sure these agencies are protecting our health and the environment and not listening to corporations that just want to make money. So please let us know if you'd like to join in and help. Please put your comments in the chat if you would like to stay on after the presentation to Suzanne, and we can add you, I believe. Remind her name and why this conversation is important to you. So with that, I'd like to ask Jamie if she has any comments or insights about tonight's presentation to share.
Thank you for the presentation tonight. I have to apologize for not being with you almost every week. I had a unique year with full distance learning and then in-person learning, but I'm sure Suzanne explained that to you. She's a wonderful leader, and thanks for explaining that to the young ladies. But I have to say that I was just blown away from everyone's presentation. And as you spoke, I took notes, and I like what Suzanne said, and I just want to build upon that. She called you public health warriors or public health leaders. I want to say you're public health warriors as far as I'm concerned. I do tend to tune in to the news media. I wake up at 5:30. The first thing I do is I turn on the news, listen to facts, and all of you communicate like professional scientists or doctors or people who are well versed in environmental policy. I see these adults on the news all the time, and I want to compliment you. You have got the language down, you've got the data down, you have the engaging visuals, and you make your case. You know what you're talking about, and your facts are facts, and they cannot be disputed. So I want to say way to go. Now, I was you taught me a lot through your presentation. I was thinking about the Roundup that many adults have been using to kill weeds in their yards. My dad sprayed it in his yard. My husband sprayed it too. And then I heard over the media some years ago, no one use it because there's a class action lawsuit coming that shows there's a correlation between cancer and Roundup. So we absolutely stopped buying Roundup. And I can't remember what year that was, but as you spoke about Roundup and the agent that caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I pulled this up on my phone and I want to read it to you. So what has happened recently in June 2020, Roundup is going to pay out $10 billion to 95,000, I guess, individuals or cases. plus 30,000 more cases are coming. And those are future lawsuits that are coming their way. So I think this is going to send a message to all pesticide companies that even though this might take, years to happen, you're going to have to come up with the funds to pay people who have lost their lives or they ended up with a disease caused by your pesticides. So way to go, ladies. In my opinion, you got them running scared. You are future environmental warriors. I can see some of you probably going into environmental law. And that would definitely be great. Now, well, I've been watching television and I heard that we've got an infrastructure package that the Senate, I don't know if you know a lot about what's happening in that regard, but I think you all have been listening to the news because you know what's happening and your information is always current. I'm really hoping that the Green Deal will pass and the environmental acts will pass. So I love what you're doing as far as contacting city council members and being very professional about the way you use your data and say this is not good for us, and we know that. And I just love what you're doing. So the last thing I want to say is I didn't know about the lead in candy. So I definitely probably should go to a YouTube video or something, Suzanne, and you can tell me maybe which video to go to. That would be something that I definitely want to share with my parents and students. So we can, just like Roundup, don't touch that stuff. It's detrimental to your health. So that's what I want to say. Just beautiful job. You've got a great future. You've already started your future. You know what you're doing. And I just like hearing you and being a part of that.
Okay, so I will invite people to hop on if they would like to. So thank you so much.